Welcome to the Austin Music Method. I'm Parsons. This is the Introduction to Snare Drum series, the lesson Grip and Stroke. We're going to talk about these two important parts of drumming with sticks today, the grip and the stroke. The first part we're going to break into a few separate pieces. So the grip consists of, firstly, a fulcrum, or an axis from which the stick moves. And that fulcrum is going to be between the pad of our thumb and the tip joint of our pointer finger. They're going to be right across from each other. The second thing, once you have that fulcrum in place, is to grab the stick about a third of the way up from the back of the stick to find what's called the balance point. We want to drop the stick with our palm over, facing the floor, and feel for how the stick responds when we drop it, just holding it at this fulcrum, just with the thumb and the forefinger. And you'll find that if you go closer to the middle of the stick, perhaps it doesn't have quite enough weight, doesn't really get many bounces, or conversely, if you go closer to the back of the stick, there's a place where it just doesn't really bounce much at all. There's too much weight in front of the fulcrum. So we want to hold it right somewhere in the middle of there, like I say, about a third of the way up, and that'll be our balance point. That's going to give us the best response. And once you find that balance point, I recommend taking a marker, or maybe a Sharpie, and putting a little line right in the middle of where your thumbprint is, and do the same thing on your other stick as well. We're going to hold both sticks the same in what's called matched grip. So now that we have our fulcrum and our balance point, we want to have our palms facing down toward the floor, and we're going to wrap all of our fingers, particularly the ring finger and the middle finger, around the stick so that we feel them resting at the tip joint of those two fingers, and we'll feel the stick sitting on the pad of the pinky. So now we have a nice support for the stick behind the fulcrum. And the last thing we want to consider before we get into the stroke is the relationship of the sticks to each other. We want the tips of the sticks to be very close, almost touching, and within a space of about an inch or an inch and a half, if you think of a silver dollar. So we'll have the sticks nice and close together, and now we're ready for our first strokes. And these will be from the wrist. I think of lifting the stick and letting it fall just by the weight of gravity. An easy way to practice this is with both hands together, and we, there again, just lift it up almost all the way to vertical, all the fingers wrapped around, let it fall, and then help it come back up to where it started. This is called the full stroke. So in summary, just to recover everything one more time, we have our fulcrum at the balance point. We have our fingers wrapped around the stick, get our stick tips close together, palms facing the floor, and we lift from the wrist and more or less let gravity do the work on the weight of the stick. And that should get you started with a nice introduction to the grip and the stroke. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.